right, come on, let's jump straight into this then. Tottenham and Ange Postecoglu. Are you having it? Oh, there's a thought there.
No. Sorry, I had to think a little bit now. I am having it. There's more positives than negatives, and I like what Ange is doing, and
that was almost Pochettino.
I know it was.
There, wasn't it? You noticed that?
I was saying that going from where Poch was, and then we've had Mourinho, we've had Conte, which I don't think any of us enjoyed watching that football. And Ange has brought a breath of fresh air in terms of the way the team play. But we're just looking for a little bit more consistency now.
Yeah, I mean, how's it being a Spurs fan this season? How's the heart rate at the minute, guys? I think the size says it all there, doesn't it? But look, Ange has completely changed this style of football, because from Conte to Postecoglou is completely different. Now, you've coached. How do you do that with a team? What do you do? Do you go in there and get your tactics board out? Do you make them watch videos? How do you completely change a style of play?
I think different managers have different ways they want to play, and we kind of know, if you look through the league and you see where managers have been before, you've seen how their teams have played. There's managers that play on the front foot, which obviously Ange is. He wants to play on the front foot. He wants to press high. He's got his way of playing. And I think what's detrimental, I really do think what's detrimental in the Premier League is, years ago, Pep at Barcelona, someone said to Pep, I remember them losing the Champions League final, and they said, Barcelona have only got one way of playing. You need a plan B. And he said, my plan B is to do plan A even better. And every manager since then has taken on that philosophy. Instead of having a plan B and being able to do something a bit different, they take that philosophy, we'll do plan A better. But Pep had the best players in the world at Barcelona at the time, so they could do plan A better. I think there's other clubs that haven't quite got that. And so managers saying that about the players they've got to understand sometimes these players need to be coached individually. And I think a lot, since I left QPR as sporting director, I've been in and I've watched different clubs coach, and I see a lot of managers coaching the whole team and not individuals. And I think that might be detrimental to the progress of some of the players in the teams that we're watching at the moment.
Yeah, interesting. Eric Dyer, remember Eric Dyer? Yeah. Yes. Do we love him? Yes, doing great things though, Rabine. But I read somewhere that he said how the coaching had changed. Sort of Conte was a lot of tactical work, but the same drills every single day, and he could do it with his eyes closed when it came to training. And I think Postecoglou now, by the sounds of it, according to Eric Dyer, he drills them as he wants them to play in a game. So what does that involve? Does he move people on a pitch in training during the week? How is that different?
Yeah, that will be the case. He'll say, right, we want to play attacking, and this is what it means. So people will move into position. So they'll play 11v11, and people will move into position, and they'll go, stop, no, I need you here, or stop, I need you there. And so that's how but that's what I'm saying. They're coached as a team rather than individuals. And from my upbringing and coaching as a kid, and when I went into QPR, I had the likes of Don Howe, who would take me individually and do stuff with me, as well as the team play. He would do stuff individually. But now with sports science involved in football, they're out on the pitch for a certain amount of time, and then they go, oh no, we've got to take them off their legs now because they've done all that. So by the time they've done all the work as a team with the manager, I ain't got time to do the individual stuff.
Oh, it's interesting. He's not going to change the way he plays, though, is he, for anyone?
Here we are.
It is who we are, and do you know what? He's not going to change, and that could be his downfall. Because, I remember him coming out and saying after playing against Chelsea and us going down to 9 men that he's not going to change the way he's playing. He got away with it for that game. If we went down to 9 men again, I don't think the supporters were reacting the same way they did for that game.
What is the general feeling of fans sort of in the stadium?
Worried about not having a plan B.
Okay. So that's a legitimate thing, as you said, possibly might be his downfall.
Yes. And listen, I understand managers are stubborn and they don't want to heed to what other people are telling them. But I just think, if you've got a group of players and something's not working, you've got to change it. Sometimes you've got to look at it and change it. Years ago, players would change it on the pitch themselves or realise something ain't working. And, you'd have what I'd call generals on the pitch. And one of the things I did notice when I came back in as a coach, from my time out, I went into the media first of all, and then I got brought back into Spurs. And the one thing I did realise was that come half time, you wouldn't know whether you was winning, losing or drawing a game when you went into the changing rooms because players are just waiting for instruction. Whereas I remember as a player, I'd be coming off the pitch and I'd be arguing with someone because they'd be saying to me, "Well, Les, when we lose the ball, you need to drop back in there." And I'd be going, "No, he needs to move in there." And so you'd be having this argument coming off the pitch.
Do you think that's lost a little bit?
I really do. You watch players coming off the pitch now. Don't talk to each other. You know, they wait till they go in the changing rooms, and that's what I noticed more than anything. They go in the changing rooms, and then they sit there like this, and then the manager will come in, and he'll say, "Right, you're not doing this, you're not doing that." You know, and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, why are they not taking responsibility for where they are? But it's just the way the game's evolved and the way it is now. So, you know, I do believe you need a plan B.
All right. You say that until you win a trophy this season, and then you'll all be happy. What were, for you, sort of the glory years at Spurs? What was your golden moments back in the day? Which manager, which team?
For me personally, would I'd look at Keith Birkinshaw, that sort of time. That for me was when I really started getting into Spurs. You know, I grew up. You know, I'll say I was a Spurs fan. My cousin supported Liverpool. He had all the Liverpool kit and stuff like that. I didn't have a kit. I just I went, I'm not supporting anyone outside of London. And I suppose Spurs were the glamour club in London at the time. My parents wouldn't allow me to go to football, so I had to watch from a distance. And Spurs was the team I decided to take on board. And I suppose the Keith Birkinshaw era was where I really got into it.
Yeah, because you were a Spurs fan from a boy.
Yeah,
and then you got to play for Tottenham. So what was that like?
I mean, it's, you know, I say to people all the time now, I've lived my dream. You know, people dream about, you know, I never believed I was going to be a footballer, but when I did become a footballer, you know, Spurs was always the team I supported, and to actually be able to do it was sort of like, you know, you live out your dream. And I say to people, my time at Spurs weren't the way I wanted it to be. I scored loads of goals at QPR, scored loads of goals at Newcastle. I came to Spurs and that's where I really wanted to score loads of goals, and it just never quite worked out for me in terms of injuries and stuff like that.
Talk us through when Harry Redknapp took over and he became Spurs manager, because it was yourself and Tim Sherwood that were effectively then his right-hand men. Can I say that?
Yeah, to a degree. When we came in, we came in as first team coaches. He brought us in as first team coaches, but there was a lot of coaches around. There was Joe Jordan, there was Kevin Bond and Clive Allen were around the first team at the time, so we're doing little bits and pieces. So I remember saying to Tim, "Look, mate, I'm not sure this is quite working out the way I want it to work out." And then he said to me, "Why don't we take over the under-21s?" So we said, "All right." I said, "Yeah, that might be good." And so myself, Tim, and Chris Ramsey came up. Who Chris was doing the under-14s or the 13s at the time. He came up and we took over the 21s, which, you know, entailed quite a few players that went on to play for Spurs and, you know, had careers in not just the Premier League but the Football League as well, which when I look back, based on the amount of players that went on and had careers, I was really proud of the fact that so many players came out of that academy and went on to play football. Because
is that where you first came across that Harry Kane?
Yeah, Harry was, you know, part of that. And the truth is, if we hadn't taken over that 21s team, Harry would just been another statistic that had walked out that door. You know, we kept pushing for him to be in the side. We could see that what he had. You know, he'd gone on loan a few times, scored some goals, and not all the loans that he went out were successful. And I remember him coming back from Leicester, and that wasn't really a successful loan period. But he came back and he had the bit between his teeth, and it was like something clicked in his head that he got sent back from Leicester. And that was a real turning point for him. He started coming in, he was the first one in, and he would do a training session in the morning before the actual group came in. And then once he'd done the training session, he was back in the gym again in the afternoon, and then you just saw the transformation. You know, a couple of times he played in a few European games, Europa League games, and probably fluffed his lines. And then we took over, and then he got into the side and just never looked back. And we look at him now and think, wow, what a player he was, but he would have been another one that just would have gone out the door. For sure.
Well, thank God you were there, as I'm sure Tottenham fans are probably thinking.